afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 21st, and I'd like to welcome you to a meeting of the Concord School Board of Trustees. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school corporation's business and is not considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation about agenda items as indicated on the agenda. If you'd like to fill out a yellow card and get that to Mrs. Warren as soon as possible, then you can speak to the board. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see all of your faces. I know some of you are here for a very special reason, and we will get to that as soon as we can. But we're going to start with the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first agenda item is good things, and this afternoon it's brought to us by Southside.
Board, Mr. Munson, administration, community members, thank you for having us from Southside. I am thrilled to be here with 3 of my 4th graders to share good news. About November-ish, maybe, Miss Loopy, no, not yet, not in November. In November, we were doing a poetry unit, and we were practicing fluency, and one of the poems was especially uplifting, and we recited to Miss Loopy and Mrs. McCrae, and she said, no, this would be great to share at Good News. We're scheduled to go February 21st. Yes, let's do it. Well, then our poetry unit ended, and we started Eureka, Student Inventor. And the kids became inventors, and we read about inventors. We had an invention convention, and it was fantastic. Well, we can bring our inventions for Good News. Well, okay, then that unit ends, and now we're in geology, and we're learning about volcanoes and earthquakes, and it's fantastic. So then it occurred to me that really our good news is everything that they've gained so far this year, the knowledge that they've acquired, their presentation skills, and their ability to talk about what they're learning is fantastic. So I'm really excited to be here to talk about things that we've learned this year. So first, Sean, he, I would say maybe weekly asks, so are we gonna learn more about the Middle Ages? That was in our 2nd unit, and I get excited to hear him get excited about learning about the Middle Ages. So I'm gonna let Sean talk a little bit about what he recalls. Now, please remember that was like in September, maybe a little bit of October when we were learning about the Middle Ages, but I'll let him share his thoughts on Middle Ages.
My name is Sean, and I'm going to talk about the Middle Ages. So, we talk about the servers first. So, there's servers that work overnight at long and for like 24 hours, and then they go to sleep for about 10 hours and wake up the next day and work, keep working. And kings, they barely work, sit down in the chair. And lords, they just basically watch the serfs work hard. And the serfs work hard for 24 hours. And the village gets late.
And we talked, one of the activities we talked about is if we lived in the Middle Ages, which role would we want to play, and which one would you choose, John? Choose a king. I go with that too. And then what kind of activities did we do?
Answer questions about what year did the war start. And we did more questions.
Thank you. And then Joy joined us after we had already started Eureka, student inventor. So she missed the first few activities, then joined our class and jumped right in feet first. She took charge of her lab group and had a great invention. So I'm gonna let Joy speak a little bit about Eureka, student inventor.
Hello everyone, my name is Joy and my good news is Eureka. So I really liked Eureka because we did a lot of inventions, writing, and we read a lot. And my favorite part about it was when we got to do slideshows and inventions because it was really fun. And what I thought was really hard was that we had to write about what inventors made and how they made it and what they did. And that was challenging. So yeah, I really liked Eureka. I also really thought that it was the activities were fun because we got to work with a group and we got to share everybody's ideas and just talk in generally. So yeah, I really love Eureka. And then, so Roman, I feel like excelled in every unit. Importantly, his ability to understand that he's learning new words and how they fit in with the content. And so he's asking questions all the time, like, well, what does that word mean? Or, wait, didn't we do that in another? So he's putting ideas together and asking a lot of questions. And Roman's going to talk a little bit about our current unit, theology. I'm Roman, and the unit topic is on geology. The unit topic that I would like to present today is geology. The geology unit topics that I enjoy learning about most were tsunamis and volcanoes. In this unit, we learn some basic facts and information about how these events occur in nature. While I enjoy learning about these topics so far, I would have liked to learn about these things in more detail. So far, out of all these topics, the one that interests me the most was tsunamis. During this unit, we had in-class readings, answered questions, had both take-home ends and in-class activities and a negative test. As a class, we are currently still working on this unit and I look forward to continuing learning about geology and these interesting details about our planet. In future units, I hope we can have more hands-on in-class activities and projects so we can learn about different topics in greater detail.
So while this is our good news at Southside in fourth grade, I am so impressed with our students. This is really good news for CIS and the junior high and high school because the kids are coming to you with a huge wealth of background knowledge that's going to help them in their content classes moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, you may.
I don't know if Laura has any questions, but you're always good.
I popped into the class when we were doing poetry and you allowed them and I was just blown away. So not a question, more of a statement that I appreciate that. However, do you still like recess the best?
No.
No. Okay.
How is language arts different? Deshaun, maybe you can answer. How is language arts class different than it was last year?
Well, we do learn about more stuff.
Roman, do you have an answer to that one?
We get to learn more specific things.
You're learning about a lot of content.
Thank you for sharing your day.
I was going to ask Joy, what was your invention for Eureka?
My invention was the liquid light bulb. Basically, a light bulb that moves on water.
I remember. You did a great job on your presentation with that.
Thank you.
You are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or if you can convince your parents to get you out of here, you're welcome to leave as well.
It lasts 3 hours.
Oh, she's
Are there any yellow cards? Okay, that brings us to consent agenda, which this evening includes minutes from 2/6/23, accounts payable claims, payroll claims distribution summary report, donations high school, human resource report, and conference requests.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that brings us to 4.1. Mr. Myers, you'd like to talk to us about a literacy coverage.
Yes, thank you. A couple weeks ago, actually about a month ago, I came to you with some information about our opportunity to participate in a literacy cadre with the state of Indiana. The Lilly grant through the state of Indiana contributed $111 million to support early literacy. And as we move forward in this process, we're getting really good feedback that we might be able to participate in this. As we continue to, we will find out here in the next month whether or not that is the case or not. But as we work towards that, I wanted to come to you and just ask for the opportunity to post these positions because as we know, there's a lot of looking for staff. Any certified position at this point is really difficult. And this position in particular would be a literacy coach that would work with kindergarten through second grade teachers. And so their understanding of kindergarten, first and second grade instruction would be really important. They would need to have experience and training in doing that. Of course, they would get more training through that process. And so our plan would be to get a jump start and post those positions, but we would not offer any positions until we were awarded that and got approval from the board for an MOU to participate in that program. So no action items today, but I wanted to see if there were any questions that you might have about the program.
Mr. Myers, do you have any idea other schools around us that might be in this or?
So I don't know of any specific school around the area that is, but I know that through my connections and curriculum, I know that not as many schools are applying as they hoped. And so they're looking to get more schools to apply. And obviously that's good for us if there's less people applying, but so it'll be we'll find out here in a few weeks here.
I wonder if part of that is because a lot of schools already have literacy coaches in place. And so I'm not sure how this program fits if you already have literacy coaches.
Thank you so much. Yeah, oh, you're up for review. Okay, next is 5.1, reading curriculum update.
Yeah, so I already got an intro, so thank you, Southside students. But I'm here to kind of give a progress report to our new reading curriculum this year. And so as you've seen already, our kids are having access to learning in a different way. The content that our kids are receiving this year in both writing and reading in our kindergarten through sixth grade is much more focused in terms of thematic units, is more difficult. Some of the vocabulary that we've heard in some of our classrooms is pretty incredible for second graders and third graders and even kindergartners to have. So I just wanted to come to you today to kind of give a progress report on where we are. And so previously, we had created our own instruction. We had teachers were going out and finding the activities and looking for opportunities to provide for our students. We had assessments that were created that were aligned with the standards, And we tried to do the best that we could in terms of thematic units, but when a teacher is trying to teach and do all the work that comes along with teaching, it was incredibly difficult to also think about all of the pieces that go into a curriculum. And so we had phonics instruction. We focused on students at where they were reading at that time. And so we were doing the best that we can, that we could. And some things that we know, if we don't have strong reading, and this is ingrained in our strategic planning, if we don't have strong foundational reading, then that affects a child every year as they continue through school. And so as we continued to look at this, this was a visual that we used often with our teachers throughout the year to help understand that reading has many layers. This is called Scarborough's rope, and it's just a representation of all the different pieces that weave together that are needed for strong literacy for a student to be able to read on grade level or above. So CKLA or Core Knowledge Language Arts is the program that we utilize, and it's broken into two different categories, a skills category and a knowledge category. And that goes right along with the language comprehension piece on this rope and the word recognition piece. And so as we, a little bit more about the program that we've had in place, kindergarten through second grade receive 60 minutes of skills instruction every day. So that's on how do letters and sounds and words work. How do I look at a word and realize that's what that word says? And so it's a lot of word practice and decoding and that kind of thing. Then there's 60 minutes of comprehension, and that comprehension comes from the projects and the themes that you heard today. And so I'll share some of those themes, which are really cool and we've gotten really excited about in our schools. 3rd through 6th, those two items are intertwined. So skills and knowledge are coming at the same time. Kind of the idea that our 3rd through 6th graders can handle that, where our younger ones need a more systematic approach. Some of those themes that we've really loved to be able to see, they cycle through. So we're building vocabulary for our students, which is so important for their long-term reading. We're building background knowledge, so when they read a text, they have an understanding that they didn't have before. So it could be a cold read, which would be something that they've never had any context about, but because they've studied this before, they're going to be more understanding of what that text is saying. So building that background knowledge is really important. And then the context of what they're reading is just really helpful. Of course, it's always good to love and enjoy what you're reading and learning. Here are some of the units and how they cycle through different grades. And so what has been great, and we haven't experienced this yet, but when kids will go from 1st grade to 2nd grade, they're also going to continue that cycle. So the knowledge that they're gaining this year is going to be strengthened the next year, and it's going to be taken to a new level. And so again, that background knowledge, that vocabulary is being built. That's a little bit different this first year, right? Because a student in 4th grade didn't have that experience in 3rd grade. And so that will look a little different. But as you can see from some of our thematic, this is just a sampling, but we have literature, we have science, we have social studies all woven in to what kids are doing every day.
Can I pause you right there?
Yeah.
Mr. Hartsow, is it true that somebody ate an insect today in 2nd grade?
Quite a few people, yes.
Okay.
So they ate an insect because students were going above and beyond, right? But they're also ate an insect because they're studying insects, right? And so, we do anything for kids to learn, right? Mrs., did you eat a
I had to dress up as a praying mantis.
Okay, so you didn't eat a bug, but you were praying mantis today, okay? So, so just some of the fun. I wanted to share some of these pictures. Sorry, it's a little, it might be a little hard to see, but we talked to, the kindergartners studied a unit on kings and queens. And so hey, what great fun to be able to celebrate and dress up as kings and queens. And these are pictures from different schools. Here are some just different, the first picture is about looking at light and how that works through a science experiment. And so they're looking at different pieces there. The plate 2000 was a magnetic plate that was at Southside during their presentations. And then here we just have older students going around the room and exploring about astronomy. So again, a variety of different types of activities. And then finally, our staff are getting involved too. So we have our queens, I guess, at Westside there that were all dressed up. And this is just one picture, but we had teachers from all different kinds of buildings dressing up throughout the year, tall tales, and so we had Paul Bunyan walking through our halls, and just a variety of opportunities for kids to get excited. Eastside had a really cool idea, and I don't want to steal too much thunder from Mr. Hartsaw. I think he's going to bring some information about that later, but in a future board meeting, third grade teacher came up with the idea that third grade was studying astronomy, and second grade was doing westward expansion, and so they had Toy Story Day. So we had Woody, and you had Buzz Lightyear with the two, so they had a celebration that day. Again, just a different way to excite. We're hearing great things from parents that conversations around the dinner table are different. If you have kids in younger grades, there just seems to be a different kind of conversation about what the kinds of things that we're doing. And so that's always good to hear. Before I get to this last, any questions about, I know some of you have been in classrooms, right? And you've seen decorations, you've seen activities in action. So I didn't know if you had any questions about how we're presenting.
I wish I could go back to school and do it. Especially when we were at Eastside and I saw Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back and.
Maybe an Oregon Trail.
Right?
Yeah. All right, well, I will say a lot of props go to our teachers because our change into this new way of teaching literacy has been quite a shift. And so there's been a lot of work and time and effort put in. Every 2 weeks, our principals meet with our grade level teams at every building, and we talk about what's coming up next. What are we going to see? What are we assessing at the end of this unit, and how do we make sure that kids are successful in doing that? What are the things the roadblocks that are getting in the way so that we can try and get those out of the way and be successful? We know that writing is super important, and we've already identified that we maybe need to supplement with a little bit more writing, and that's okay. No textbook is ever going to be foolproof, right? And so there are always going to be holes, and we've identified that as one as well. So any other questions or thoughts that you have?
So next year, will it be identical, the workbooks that are in the hands, it'll be the same, it won't change?
It'll be the same for 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the benefit is that the teachers are going to have another year of understanding and the implementation. I won't speak for Mrs. Molnar or other teachers, but I can only imagine that having experienced it for 1 year is going to make it that much stronger next year. That and the students have had some experience on their own going to the next grade.
The first could be worse. It just gets better.
Sure. Yep. I will say too, just as a side note, when we purchased this program, we did use ESSER funds as well as textbook rental to be able to purchase this. And I think it was a wise decision. Anytime we look at funding for our kids' literacy abilities, I think it's a dollar well spent. So thank you for that.
else on that? All right, let's go ahead and move to 5.2, our ELL learners.
Yeah, again, I will sit down after this, I promise, but I wanted to share with you some of the demographic changes and some of the needs that might look different than someone that grew up in the area from Concord 20 years ago. You can see the demographics here in terms of white in purple, Hispanic in blue, and Black, Asian, and multiracial numbers, where we have some that are pretty constant. We've obviously seen some change in our population, which I think is fantastic. My kids have gone to Concord. I've loved the diversity within Concord. But we also need to recognize that brings some needs to our district. And so with that, I'm specifically talking about our English language learners. In 2013, 12 and 13, our student body was 18% EL learners, and now they are 29% EL learners. And you can see just from 16, 17, almost a doubling of the amount of students that are EL learners. And so, we can see that there's a difference. Obviously, that more recently, our EL learners have, there is a discrepancy between our performing rates on things like I read. And so we need to look at that closely. We need to consider what are ways that we can help to support that as we move forward. I put this slide up here because I think it's important for us to know what our support is for the buildings. I will say that in the last, since 2016, 17, or even the last 10 years, our EL staffing hasn't really changed a lot, other than bilingual, having bilingual folks in our front offices. We know that that's super important for the communication and just having a welcoming culture in our schools, but we also know how much that's important for communication of how students are doing. So we have made significant efforts in that area. We have added one teacher in 10 years, even though our numbers have gone up. And I'll say part of that has been because the grants that support EL instruction from the state and the federal level have not increased. And so when we have looked to increase those numbers, and I'll show you a little bit, I shouldn't say they haven't increased. They haven't increased at the rate that our student population is increasing. And you can see that here. So Title III is a federal grant, and you can see how that has kind of actually declined over the last few years, since 1920. And you can see that the NESP, which is the non-English speaking grant from the state, has increased, but again, it should have because it's based on our student population. Again, it's not increasing at the rate that it needs to, and so we need to look at opportunities there. Here are just some of the pieces that we're doing to be able to support our English language learners. Small group targeted instruction for our students, push-in support as well as pull-out support, training for classroom teachers. We have that is one area that we've changed quite a bit in the last 2 or 3 years. We've gone from about 10 classroom teachers being EL certified to almost 30. So we've really made some strides there. Thematic units, visuals, vocabulary, are all things that we've tried to do, but we need to review programming here as we move forward with certified staffing this year. Questions or about this presentation?
current, just share some information, House Bill 1001, which is the House budget, we received, today, received funding runs on, what support, in all of our areas would be. If 1001 passes as is, we would receive about a 30% increase, in, funding for English language learners, so that's definitely a move in the right direction.
Looking at your staffing numbers, if you could wave the magic wand and make the world as you want it, what would your staffing numbers look like?
Well, so the state suggests one teacher to 30 EL students. And we have a building that is one teacher to 216 students. So I think the 1 to 30 is, I think we can really serve our students not having 1 to 30, but I do think we need to get closer to that. So no magic wand statement here, but improvement.
Anything else? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item 5.3, Kids Care Report.
Good afternoon. I am Dustin Newcomer, Area Director for Kids Care, which is the largest division of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Elkhart County. So here today to talk a little bit about partnership with Concord Community Schools. Been a long time partner. I can remember when we had office space actually at CIS years ago in the basement for that repurpose. So one of our longest standing partners for the districts that we do serve. So here to talk about kind of what we do, who we are, and then share how we can kind of progress that partnership moving forward. Short video.
I don't believe I have a video of this.
Okay. We'll skip that part. Video discussing what some of the members like about Kids Care, parents talking about affordability of the program, convenience as we are in schools. And so kind of talking about the different fun aspects that kids like, the social aspect, the homework piece, and just kind of hearing from some of our parents. So I do have that PowerPoint if you'd like to send it out there, feel free. Okay, mission alignment. So Concord works to prepare all students for success. And that's what I really love about Kids Care and the Boys and Girls Clubs of Elkhart County is working towards helping kids make successful choices, being that caring adult for the kids. And so we work to do that by building relationships with every child. And that's kind of what I challenge my staff with, know every child by name, know parents, guardian members coming to pick up, making sure building that relationship. So we kind of know what background are we dealing with that child. Is really important to myself and our staff. And we do that with the small staff to child ratio. So we do have one staff member every 20 students. And that's something that's set by Boys and Girls Clubs of America. It's something that we really stick to, which is helpful too as we're working with students at Oxbow and Southside in the cafeteria space. We can kind of get smarter programming done. So, and then supporting teachers. We have homework time after school, working on different STEM activities. We had a couple kids that were part of the science project and made it past the school round in the districts, and parents had thanked us for doing that. We could work together on that project at Kids Care, so they wouldn't have had that opportunity outside of Kids Care outside of school because they had so much extracurriculars going on. So I thought that was really cool. And then, like I talked about earlier, promoting those successful habits before and after school. We are early risers. We have an early morning program too at Oxbow that all the schools filter into. So we've got kids that are there dropped off at 5:30 in the morning and then stay till 5:30 at night. So trying to really be that positive influence on the kids and really kind of see them kind of grow. It's just really, really cool. So highlights of our program. We do before and after school care, like I mentioned, we're grades K through 6. We do have some intermediate students that come over to Southside in the afternoons and are at Oxbow in the mornings. Majority of our population is K through 2, typical we see across the county and specifically in Concord as well. 2 hub locations, so we are at Southside and Oxbow in the afternoons, 1 location at Oxbow in the mornings. The district helps transport back and forth, so parents can drop off at 1 or pick up at 1 location, which has really helped us with the staffing challenge we've been going through the last few years with COVID, and it makes it convenient for the parents too, so it's been a great partnership. You can see our hours there. Majority of our attendance is after school. With the earlier start times in the morning, we don't have a large morning program. We have about 30 kids to utilize it. Afternoons, about 50 at each location. And then price. So it's 55 for mornings or afternoons, 75 if you do both. You can't really find that for childcare or for a program like this in the area. We hear all the time parents paying double, triple that. So that's something we really like to highlight, and thankfully we keep that cost down. As everything else kind of keeps jumping up, we've really only raised that price maybe $10 in the last 3 or 4 years. So really proud to be able to keep that affordable rate for parents. And so here's numbers for Concord. We serve about 108 Concord students K through 6. We do have a short wait list at Oxbow, and that's through staffing. So trying to bring on more staff. We have a couple of paras that work for us actually at Southside. That's worked out really well. And then we have a para in the morning that works at Oxbow too. But continuing trying to recruit. We're fighting against the RV factories and everybody else in the community. So that's been a challenge for us. But the demand's there, the need's there, and providing that service to students. And then a piece I'm really excited about, we do have a mental health specialist on staff for Kids Care now. We just brought that on in January. And they'll work closely with families, different partnerships with OPON, school counselors, really trying to kind of have a whole approach with the family, with the child, trying to help kind of correct some of the health stuff that we're seeing early on before they get to middle school and into high school. So we're trying to kind of get out ahead of that and be proactive. And so safe space for kids. You see some of our pictures here, a few from Oxbow, but providing that dedicated homework and reading time. We set aside a time after school every day for those kids to get that done, for our staff to work with the kids doing their homework, making sure they're following up and seeing how we can help support in that way. Gym or outside time. I was surprised when you asked about the recess question earlier. That's something we try to highlight. So we get them outside, we go to the gym, trying to get active and just kind of encouraging that play and healthy lifestyles. And then arts and crafts, so trying to really give a space for that still with our kids, and they love that time we're able to do it, and make them some really creative stuff. It's really cool. And then just being active, so social time. It's really cool to see some of the kids that might go to Oxford interacting with some East Side students, those relationships they've built just for being in Kids Care. They normally wouldn't see those students every day, and kind of carrying that as they get older at high school. And so how do we continue to partner? Curriculum maps. I think this is kind of a key for us as we move forward, supporting teachers. This one and the next one kind of go hand in hand, but how we can help mirror those curriculum maps. So what are they doing in the classroom, in April or May? How can we help mirror that to support and help kind of enhance what you guys are doing at Concord Schools and also what the kids are hearing in that program too. And then involving our staff in school trainings. This is helpful. We've done this in some other districts, especially with safety trainings. Kind of getting on board and using the same language. There are times that we might be doing staff in the building early morning, 5:30, so it gets there after school. So just kind of knowing the ins and outs is helpful for us for staff. And then community events. We go to back to school nights, go to kindergarten roundups, continue to partner in that way, being involved in the community and raising awareness for what we do. I think it's super important and it's something we want to continue to do. So, with that being said, thank you to Dan and the board for the opportunity. We work really closely with a lot of your team and Lisa Kendall. Really great, getting us whatever we need, making it work for us. We're doing a summer program at Oxford this summer that she's been instrumental in kind of getting that going. So just thank you for the opportunity to share. Appreciate it. Any questions?
Could I hear, sorry, you mentioned, I think, the majority is in the K2, is that in across the county?
Yeah, so
Because at grade 3, they stay home on their own, or?
throughout the other areas of our county, we have clubs. So we have Boys and Girls Clubs in those locations. And a lot of times, once they get to about 3rd grade, they start going to clubs a little bit more. Here, I think we see that it's just kind of the trend we've seen. I don't know the real reason or rhyme for it here at Concord. That's typically our kind of our sweet spot as far as demographics go. I'm not sure the real reason. That's kind of the, the other areas, that's usually the reason for that.
Yeah, I can't say enough. My daughter goes to Southside, Miss Angel and her crew, top-notch program. And, you're talking about the cost and that's a big deal, especially around here. Parents not very able to do it for kids. They're still working. Yeah, it's just, thank you.
Yeah. Tammy, could you stand up? So I don't know if you guys have met, Tammy Hicks is the new director of the Elkhart County Boys and Girls Club. And so hoping for some future partnerships that we've already begun talking about with her as well, but wanted to make sure you knew who the person in the audience was. Dustin there. So, thank you.
Thank you, both of you. That brings us to 5.4, Ms. Spear. Can update us on how many kids we have.
And good afternoon, board. So we recently took in February our spring ADM count. I'm here this evening to share that information with you as well as an update about our enrollment next week for the next school year. So crazily, we're there already, but we're. So in the fall, we had 5,347 students enrolled with us, and this spring we have 5,291. So the difference there is 56 students. I do want to note that the decrease is pretty normal when you look at our historical numbers. It's not uncommon. We're still up about 50 students from the same time last year, so we feel good about that. Also, just to note, of those 5,291 students, 4,471 of them live within Concord District, and 790 of them are transfer students. So that's something we're talking about tonight with our cash transfer availability for next year. We just want to always make sure you're aware of that number. The remaining 30 students in the group are homeschool, foster students, groups, and kids, others that we serve. So just making note of those. Our largest grade levels are our current 9th and 10th graders, or next year's 10th and 11th graders. So we continue to see a large bubble in those two classes moving through. Our 9th grade right now is sitting at 484 students, our 10th grade at 460 kids. So just want to make you aware of those things. I'll also note, so March 1st kicks off our official enrollment for new students, be it transfer students or families who are moving into the district. So you'll see we're going to do that process fully online this year for the first time. Pretty excited about it. You'll see marketing starting to go up about that. We want to get families enrolled as soon as we can, so that helps us kind of gauge for next year where we need to be. We are doing something new this year, though, for our returning families. And we've done this kind of paper send home sort of things in the past, but we're really being intentional with something called a returning student registration form. So what this will do is if you're a current family in Concord schools, you'll get an email with what's called a SNAP code for each of the kids that you have enrolled with us. So click on that email, you'll look through and say, yes, this is my kiddo, this is their birthday. We ask you to confirm that you're living at the residence where you're living in. And then there are a couple of forms that the state likes us to update every year, so those will be included in that. This is something we're really excited about because it gives us a better gauge of who's coming back to us next year. It helps us with staffing, it helps us with safety. We're able to get those contact sheets updated before the new school year. So we're really looking forward to that possibility, but that will be new. Our families have not done that process in the past, so you'll see us starting to communicate that, anticipating some questions about it, but we think once it's up and rolling, it'll be a really slick way to make sure that families know they're welcome back to Concord. We're glad to have them here, and we want to make sure we have updated information on file. We're also going to ask just a quick survey question at the end to kind of gauge, why Concord? Why are you here? What do you love about it? It'll be fun to see those responses coming in too. So just want to update you on our ADM counts and give you an update that enrollment is coming soon.
Can I check this real quick? So grade 9 and 10, grade 9 is 484, grade 10 right now is 462. We did not accept any transfer students in those grades. And so any growth you see from year to year in those two grades would be resident students. The 9th grade, when they were in 8th grade, that's pretty close, a little larger than what they were as 8th graders, but pretty close to what it was. So.
that registration, is that for all of our families or our transfer families?
It's for all of
All of our families.
Yes.
So is it bilingual for non-English communities?
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you so much. Oh, better stay up there. That brings us to 6.1. Kind of piggybacking on what you were just talking about, enrollment caps.
Yeah, we tried to tie it all in tonight, so. Okay, this is, each year we set caps for our grade levels. We keep our enrollment caps right now at 440. So as we talk about where our numbers were before, this gives you a gauge for where we're sitting for the following year. So I've included a charting and packages so you can get a feel for enrollment by cohort. So as those kids move up next year, where they're going to be in each of those grade levels, we use this then, of course, in determining the number of seats that we have available for our transfer families. Based on those numbers, we would like to consider welcoming new transfer families in kindergarten, grade 1, and then the transitional grade. So as they move from one building to the next, so you see 5, 7, and 9 there. Now we'll have a limited number of seats in each of those grade levels, but as we communicate with transfer families, we're very clear that in-district families are seated first, and any available seats in the transfer families will have space as well. So the transfer window this year starts on March 1st, as I mentioned, and will conclude on May 26th. That just helps us get a good start before the summer arrives on how many seats remain. So, I also always want to mention this doesn't impact current transfer kids that are with us. They continue, they won't hear faculty student unless we've had a communication about non-renewal. And then, yeah, and then siblings of students who are already with us are always considered as well. So we want to make sure we keep those families. So I'm just seeking your approval of the caps. We can start our enrollment process next week.
And a motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mr. Mulrooney. Any comments or questions? Remind me, have we ever had to put the lottery option in?
So we were close last year. It would have been, I don't think so. So I'm not sure when all of them.
I was trying to think if I don't think
We were within 2 students last year with the 7th grade.
We don't anticipate being that close.
Yeah. Any other comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? All right, Ms. Beer, if you'd like us to look at some class sizes.
Yes, so channeling my inner Tricia Nixon, our wonderful special education director, who can be with us this evening. We have here for you some class sizes that we'd like to have you consider for our self-contained classrooms. These are our classrooms where we have students with the highest needs, so those would be academic, medical, education, behavioral, just significantly higher needs. So we keep a close eye on staffing and our student to staff ratio there. The other thing is just classroom space. So there are wheelchairs in these classrooms, there are restrooms that they need to be able to access, and so supervision and helping kids in those areas. So you'll see here each of our buildings kind of outlined in the number of spaces that we have available. As we're looking at these numbers, we are keeping in mind any in-district family that moves in will be served by us. So these are specific to transfer families requesting placement in our school district. And we have a conversation with the family and explain to them what staffing looks like. We're very, try to be very clear about the availability that we have, the level of service we're going to provide the kids. But we're just bringing these in front of you. They're the same numbers as last year, just to keep it on your radar. If that's something we're figuring out on. So, going to seek your approval for those caps for the year ahead.
A motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Malooly, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions for Mrs. Beer?
Have we been reaching capacity on any of these?
We have been reaching capacity. Staffing continues to be a challenge.
So are these spots for our own kids, or what about kids that would come to us with that?
Mr. Kettner.
So we, in most cases, we don't have students coming through exec. Many school districts are creating their own classrooms for that, whereas in the past that didn't occur, and so we would have students from Bago, from other districts, and so So that's not an issue. And if it is, then we would have a conversation, but it hasn't been for the last year or two that we've taken additional students there.
And I will probably send this his way. What do we do when we have in-student kids who need that space, but obviously we've reached the cap? What's our plan with those kinds of?
Yeah, so we'll always take our students that live in our boundaries. The reason for these caps is to ensure that our class sizes stay small. We've seen similar numbers from year to year, and so that has helped us to gauge what our caps need to be in order to make sure that we provide the best for our students. And like Julie said, our staffing comes into play more so in the last couple of years than it has in the past. In the past, we might look at adding staffing or looking at extra rooms, and those aren't as available as they had been in the past.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mrs. Beard. Mr. Evans, 7.1 financial report.
Thank you, Mrs. Wade. Have a financial report, financial summary report, I guess I should say, for the month in January 2023. Don't have a lot to report other than to say that the cash balances and the balance of unexpended appropriations are about where we would expect them to be. I only would probably draw your attention to one fund, the curriculum material fund. Typically, we don't see negative fund balances, and there's an obvious reason why, as Mr. Myers so eloquently and articulately explained the value of what we're doing with the new leading curriculum. That fund is negative only because we are expecting reimbursement from the state for textbooks. However, we just received an email today that the state is saying they don't know exactly when or what that amount will be, because there was a computer glitch that goes back to July of last year. So when the state figures out what they owe us and so forth, they will reimburse us, and at that point, then we will see that change in that particular fund. So, having said that, I'll give the answer.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mr. Malloy. Any comments or questions that Mr. Evans can help us with? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good, that brings us to 7.2. Mr. Evans, some appropriation.
Yes, every year, we have to, basically, the state gives us the opportunity and requires us to make sure that there are no accounts that are in the negative. So we come to the board every year at the end of as we close the books for the previous year and ask for the board to approve the transfer of appropriations resolution, which basically makes all the accounts at least zero or positive. So I'll make that request to the board this evening.
Second. I have a motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions for Mr. Evans? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Very good, thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item 7.3, a fuel contract. Mr. Calvin.
First off, I want to thank Dr. Lisa for filling in for me 2 weeks ago. I wasn't feeling good. All right, so I'm asking for permission to do a fuel contract with Sierra Solutions, which is also Country Mart. They have a station down on County Road 28. And our base price is at $3.30, and then there's state and federal excise tax that puts it up to about $3.85 right now. What we're paying at the pump is about $4.39, so there's a little bit of savings there. I'm asking to buy 25,000 gallons of diesel fuel, which is gonna be about 82.50 or 82,500. But that's for March through August, and we have until the end of the year to actually use all that. Now, in that time frame, we used about 21,000 last year, but that's with us going not only to Cirrus, but we're also going to Pacific Pride, some of our buses. We will use all of that, don't worry. But I'm just locking in that price right now so that I can better get another price from August to December for the rest of the year. So we'll come back with another permission to sign another contract later on in the year. You guys have any questions?
I'll motion to approve as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Davis. Any comments?
So moving forward, you say the second part of the year was sign another contract. So you see us doing it every 6 months?
So, yeah, they kind of suggest doing it every 6 months, just to get a better fuel price, because it could go skyrocket or it could drop out of the air, stuff like that. So they say it's best to do 2 contracts per year. So.
We don't, go ahead.
That was my question, so.
We don't have the ability to store this on site, correct?
We do not.
Okay, so this is just, they just keep track of,
So anytime they go to the station, we get the contract price when they swipe their card.
Okay.
So right now, we're paying $4.39.
right,
As of March 1st, we'll start paying $3.85, I think is what it is. So, they were not under contract when I first got here, and that's something that we've been trying to get situated and get going since we got here. Some of the other schools around us do have storage tanks on site. They can save a little bit more, but for us to put a tank on site, it's gonna cost us a ton of money with insurance and storage and room that we just don't have right now.
So if a bus is in Kokomo or Indianapolis and
So there's Cirrus Country Mart stations all over from here to Evansville. If they could go to any one, we'll pay that price. Now, if they go to one that's not a Cirrus Country Mart station, we'll end up paying the actual price, but we try to send them from anywhere close to those.
any other comments or questions?
it's just diesel, not.
Just diesel. Right now, it's not affordable for us to do a gas contract. If it ever comes that way, like I'll bring it to you guys and we'll do a fuel contract that way. But as of right now, we're saving money paying the pump price versus what they can do for us for gas.
If we go over 20,000,
If we go over, then we'll pay the contract or the regular price, but I don't see that happening because before August comes around, I'm gonna have another contracted place to go.
you can only get 6 gallons until tomorrow.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, sir. Is there any sharing from the board this evening?
I have the pleasure of kind of a one-on-one tour of a website. I missed our board tour a week ago, and so it's my understanding that I got to see the basement. That's my understanding that you got to see.
Oh, you're fancy.
Saw the boiler, we're doing the right thing, but replacing that thing, so earlier in June. But overall, I was impressed with what I saw. Obviously, website is a little more near and dear to my heart, just family-wise, but I was impressed. We got to sit on a music class. They were doing a song with percussion percussion instruments that I had not heard in probably 30 years, some called weekly week. It had the distinction of being one of the songs you hear at once, and now I'm probably even today still hearing it. Very well done by students, and you saw the passion in the teachers' speech and interaction with the kids that she loved what she was doing. And I saw that all throughout the entire school. It's just parents or teachers who love what they're doing, and are very driven to do right by the kids.
So this past month has been like fabulous for me because I am like Concord Swim Team's biggest fan. So even though I don't have any kids, I actually had a parent sit beside me, didn't know who I was. It's like, oh, who's your swimmer? I'm like, I don't have any. I said, I just come to watch. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. So I did go to the boys' state meet a couple weeks ago, girls' state meet, which was great. And I wish I could go to the boys' meet this weekend. So the bad thing for my husband is he's a big wrestling fan, so we couldn't do semi-state wrestling and swimming at the same time. So you did, but we didn't do that. So my husband's sitting there on his iPad following Armin and Lance. So using technology. But I just had the best month following our students and helping celebrate their successes. And it's going to be awesome this weekend when our boys go to state. So I can't talk enough about our swim team, our athletes. It's just great.
Did they charge you for the little one that you took?
You guys see my picture of my grandson? I put him out on Twitter. Concord's youngest fan. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, had a good time. It was kind of loud in the next morning. He only lasted Friday night, he didn't go Saturday. So one night was enough. But yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to have a shout out about our athletes. It's great. And I do appreciate administrators making that effort to drive all over the place to follow our kids around. Because, that takes away from your family time too.
I actually brought my family, but we always appreciate your support, and we love seeing all of you guys there. Our kids are doing amazing things, and whatever we can do to celebrate it, so thank you.
It was a big student caravan for Armin, so it's okay, he got to go more. Anything else? All right, superintendent's report.
I would say if you don't follow us on social media, a lot of great things have been happening over the last month. I won't review all of those, but the athletic department at the high school, our music department at the high school, Concord High School, the junior high, and all of our schools, and then Julie at the district level do a great job of, and I'm not a big social media person, but I do really appreciate being able to jump on Twitter at any time and see great things that are happening. And so if you don't follow us, I'd say follow us. And then just want to give a shout out. We held our science fair at CIS last weekend. And first, thanks to Mr. Yoder. I think he's a judge every year, and Mrs. Davis usually judges as well. But then in addition to that, we had probably 6 or 8 teachers there that volunteered their time to judge the science fair as well. And so we will bring, after the regional science fair, we'll bring some science fair kiddos to the board and celebrate that as well. So that will be happening. And then just last week, our district-wide meeting went out talking about our strategic plan. Our next one will be some enrollment information, but it'll also be sharing our district financial success and everything the board has done to lower taxes and put the district in a good place. So that'll be coming as well. And so just Julie designed that and put all that together. On top of that, and I would just add to give her, and Mr. Malooly might not know this, but we're down an administrator from where we were when I started. When Mr. Kovach moved on, we did not replace him. He had overseen enrollment. And so that was one of those things as other duties assigned by the superintendent that Julie has taken over, and she's done a great job with that as well. So that's it.
Very good. Will you go over our upcoming board meeting schedule?
So, yep, the 6th at 5 o'clock, we have an executive session. We'll be discussing personnel and staffing at that meeting. Then we'll follow that up with the regular board meeting at 6. And then we'll be at Move Up on the 16th, and then CIS just right after that for our board tours, and then back here on the 20th to get back on schedule with regular meetings.
Very good, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for your attendance again this evening, and we adjourn at 5:05 PM.